Yes, I'll take it.
Got Your Back Pod Stream is brought to you by Mr. Dirk. From casual wear to suits and formals, Mr. Dirk helps you find the perfect fit with the right look for any occasion. Step up your wardrobe at MrDirk.com.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can't trust a forward. Listen to my words tonight. Don't just fall in love with my face. I used to be somewhat of a big deal, wheeling, dealing, no bucket in the warm-up, people carrying my bags in. How many times do I have to tell you through text, let's talk about the PK? That is a dirty hit that needs a response. I like a stiff, stout pillow. We'd rather dress nobody than dress you.
The only thing I like better than easy points are free Slurpees.
Goalies embellish all the time. He tumbled over like he was hit by a Zamboni. Am I this good, or are we just winning by 7 goals, and that's why I'm out here? Just say, I know you're right, Struddy. Just get it out. I think I am the modern-day Ronnie Dangerfield.
Yeah, I get no respect.
And now, Weiss Johnson presents Struddy's World. Here's your host, the man who has appeared on the cover of Mustard Enthusiast magazine more times than any other former NHL defenseman, Jason Strudwick.
What's going on today, Empton? It is true, I do love the mustard, not Dijon mustard. I like French's mustard. That's what I'm all about. Thanks for joining us today, and what a day it is to be alive. I'm here to tell you, I'm planting the flag right now. The Oilers have pulled out of their nosedive. Amongst other things, I'm going to tell you why that is the case right away here. Our show is brought to you by our good buddies at Weiss Johnson Heating and Air Conditioning. If it is time for a new furnace, garage heater, or hot water tank, or you're looking to beat the rush on getting a new air conditioner for this summer, act now as the team over at Weiss Johnson are already seeing an increase in requests for air conditioning. Specializing in servicing of your existing mechanical systems or installing new ones, Weiss Johnson is here for all your home comfort needs. Visit Weiss Johnson today.
Weiss Johnson.
Oh, sorry. How did I forget the jingle? I'm so pumped up for the show. Even I forgot the jingle. And I'm home again. I'm here home in my beautiful studio, coming to you from our Darren Diesel friends studio. All new 24/7 mobile service truck, ready for roadside emergencies, scheduled repairs, and expert diagnostics anytime, anywhere. For service truck emergencies, call 780-907-1965, extension 119 in my beautiful Adrenaline Diesel studio. There he is. Zuby, you're back as well. How are we doing today, buddy?
Doing well. Good to be back. I might have misjudged how much pre-work goes into this show that I took 1 week off and completely forgot. So I've been running around scrambling this morning, but I think everything is here. Famous last words, but I think everything's here. We're going to have a fun show.
Well, if we've got you and me, we've got enough right there. And then we have a lot to cover today. We have Ryan Rishaug joined us live from Rogers Arena. He'll talk to us about what he's seen, if the lines have changed, all those kinds of things. Of course, we'll have our good buddy Darren Dreger will join us. And been an interesting week. The GM spring meetings just wrapped up, and some interesting notes out of there, including a discussion about when the NHLPA and NHL are going to start. There's a firm date now to start their discussion. So that's really important. And then we'll get to take playing the field, take a look at some different things happening around the sporting world. We've got some beauties today.
Yeah.
Then getting off the fence. And I got a feeling you and I are going to lock horns on this one. Zuby, it's about a certain quarterback who's making everyone wait to see where he decides to play. Of course, I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers. There's reports that the Vikings want him. It sounds like they've sidestepped. They don't want him anymore. The Giants, amongst other teams, are looking at Aaron Rodgers. He's making everyone wait. So I'm going to tell everybody why this was a mistake, a massive mistake. But you, my friend, I think you might be looking on the other side of this.
He's in a cave somewhere in darkness, waiting it out with a bunch of ayahuasca and whatever else is. I think there's a fit. I don't think it's your team. You must, unless you really want them to tank, I think you're hoping it's not the Giants, unless you want one more big tank year, because that is not the fit that I'm going to suggest. But I think there's a place I don't even like this guy, but I think there's a place for him.
All right, we'll get to that a little bit later. And of course, we want to hear from you, whether you're on the stream or on Twitter. Please send us a note in our inbox. Zuby will pop up and tell you what's going on. And tell a friend over lunch. It's a great place to hang out. We also have a new sponsor. McDonald's is going to join. We'll get into that later. But what we're going to do is ask Struddy and Zuby anything. So you can pile those up in the comment section of the streams, either stream, and I will, Zuby will get those up and we'll answer those at the end. So we have a couple coming in already, which is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Zuby.
Hey, but before we move on.
12.
Oh,
yeah. What's that?
I want to ask you something. Do you use any makeup for these shows? Do you put any makeup on?
This is going to surprise you, but no. Are you saying I should?
No, I think, I don't know. But if you do the game for Sportsnet, obviously I'm sure they put makeup on you for that. And then when you come home to do Got Your Back, do you leave it on or do you clean it up?
You know what? I never wear any makeup.
No.
That's all natural. You're not going to believe it. Bob and I are all natural. So Gene, I think Gene cakes it on pretty heavy, but he's a little older. He's an older gentleman. So no, I keep it pretty tight. Maybe I should, because I'm on there tomorrow night actually. So maybe I will put some makeup. I used to do my own. I did dinner television. I did my own makeup and it showed. It looked like I did it in the dark, which I probably did. It was awful. They tried to show me. I was like, oh my goodness, what are we doing here?
I got a sunburn right at my hairline here down in Arizona, not really paying attention on sort of the classic on a cloudy day. And now I'm a little bit, I'm getting a little bit flaky up there. And I wondered how badly it was going to show. So I wondered I always think sometimes I'm sitting here looking at you and Shuagger thinking, man, these guys look great. They must be using makeup, but I guess not.
No, just all natural. And we all look the same. We all look like we're average looking guys with great personality. So we'll take it. Okay, guys, before we get to Ryan Rishaug, I am saying right now it is 12:07. I'm planting the flag. Officially, Zuby, the Oilers have pulled out of their slump, their mid-season poor hockey play. And I've got 3 reasons for it, and I want to hear from you and obviously all of our listeners. Number 1, support scoring has returned. Leon Draisaitl has been pretty much doing it all by himself, but the support scoring, I'm highlighting 3 players specifically. Nugent Hopkins, 6 points in his last 2 games. Arvidsson, 3 goals in his last 6 games. He was brought in for 25 goals. He's starting to look like that player a little bit if you really squint. And then Zach Hyman, I know he missed a game, but he's got 4 goals in his last 5 games, including 2 games with 2 goals. So support scoring is returning. We can mention Paul Coles and we can mention the D, but those are the 3 I want to highlight. Second one, 97 scoring touches coming back. The Rangers goals he scored to be the game winner. That was it was a 3-1 goal. That was a huge goal. He'd taken that shot earlier in the game and missed it twice. And then he gets it when he was probably under the most pressure to make it. And he gets it and beats him. One goal like that, he can feel good about himself, get himself going again. He now has 2 goals in 2 games and 8 points in his last 5 games. This guy is going to start going off, and that's good news for the Oilers, trouble for the rest. It's incredible that you almost are calling him support scoring when you got Leon over 100 points already. Yeah. My last one, maybe the most important, defensive structure in front of their netminders. The last 3 games, they've given up 1 goal in each game. Their structure is better. It looks calmer. And the byproduct of that is steadier play from their netminders. So you're almost getting 2 for 1. I know you'll have a good 2 for 1 deal, Zuby. So
absolutely,
defensive structure is better. And at the goalies now it's better. So those are 3 things that I'm seeing have turned around, and I expect them now to hope to continue those going. But do you see anything I've missed, or do you disagree with any of those points of those 3 I've made mention of?
I'm with you on 2 and 3, especially. I think Connor looks like he's returning to what we expect from him. I think the defensive structure looks better, and it's something you guys have said a lot about. And as a goalie, making the game predictable for the goalie. I think the Oilers goalies are as such that you need to make the game predictable for them, and they're doing that. Number 1 is the one I'm still a little bit concerned about, whether you can say unequivocally that secondary scoring is back in a small sample size, when the much bigger sample size of the season has been that they're not really doing it. So, but maybe you see something that you feel really confident about saying that, but that's the one I would reserve judgment on still.
And that's a fair point. This is a pretty small sample size, and I'm squinting pretty hard to get this one across the line. So major red flag for me. Major red flag is Leon's line. So Leon is with Corey Perry and Connor Brown. And listen, those two guys are good NHLers. They work hard. One's towards the end of his career, and I think one is miscast playing beside the big guy. But what's happened is that they put a line together with Nuge, Arvidsson, and Puckholz, and it's working pretty well.
Yeah.
So do you rob Nuge from that line and move Henrique up? And what do you do to tweak it? So I believe that's the big challenge facing Chris Knobloch. Help is on the horizon, and this is one of my positives also. Frederick will be coming back. Shuagger mentioned last night, maybe first week of April. But man, do they need that guy, because all 4 lines look good except for Leon's line. So it's really only just 3 lines look good, Zuby.
It seems like everything is pointing towards Trent Frederick getting at least a sniff with it, at least a shot with Leon, with that third line now sort of settling into something that seems to be working.
Yeah, 100%. So the Oilers take on they have 2 of their next 3 games are really tough. No disrespect to Seattle. They go Winnipeg, they go Seattle, they go Dallas. So those are 3 really, really tough games. But I think they're ready for it. So let's do this. Shuagger's down at the rink right now. He told me he's in his tightest suit. I don't know. They seem all a little tight. But so let's get into Up to Speed with our good buddy Ryan Rishaug, brought to you by Timber Haas Developments, where if you can dream it, they can make it happen. A truly customized building experience. They've got you covered. Every house is unique. Every customer is like family. See what you can dream up together. Contact timberhaas.ca. We now bring in Ryan Rishaug. There he is. Oh, he's really got the pose going. Great to see you, Shuagger. I just outlined my 3 points why I think the Oilers have pulled out of their slump. First, support scoring. Second, 97 scoring touch. And 3, defensive structure, which the byproduct of which is more steady play from their netminders. What say you about those 3 things?
All right, I knew I was going to have to jump in here because Shuagger listened to us for so long that he's muted. So
sorry about that.
He's back.
I'm here now.
There he is.
So the one thing I will say, Struds, is I like how you're giving credit for the goaltender's better play to the defenseman. I feel like you've maybe funneled that credit for Calvin Pickard and Stuart Skinner playing a little better here in the last few games to the D-men having better structure, and then so they get the credit for that. I think you're kind of skipping over just a little bit an uptick in play from the 2 netminders here in the last number of games. But no, I think you're bang on with all of it. I think when you see Connor McDavid make those plays and hit those levels, we're used to seeing those spread out through the whole regular season, Struddy, one every few games. And he's not finding those moments as frequently. So now that we're seeing them a little bit more often, you're going, oh yeah, he does this fairly regularly. So to me, that's a huge one. And I just think that affects so many things, Struds. When he's on his game, he makes his line mates better. He forces the D to be moving the puck faster. When his game drops, even just a percentile or 2, the effect that it has on the group is pretty significant. It's not fair, but that's why he makes the big bucks that he does. But no, I think you're bang on with all of it, but I would really accentuate that Connor McDavid one and say this, of all of them, that might be the biggest for the group.
And it's crazy because he's such a good player, and we're talking about him being slightly off, and he's coming up on 90, right around 90 points, which is just nuts.
I know, it's crazy.
What are you seeing as far as lines? Are they the same as we saw last night with Jeff Skinner riding shotgun with 97?
Yeah, so today was a bit of an odd practice. It wasn't an optional. Everybody was supposed to be out there, but there was no McDavid, there was no Draisaitl, and there was no Matthias Ekholm. So it wasn't the entire group. So a little bit tough to even get a gauge on what lines are going to be. I mean, I would guess, Struds, you probably don't mess too much with that unless, and here's the thing, unless you look back at the tape and you look at Draisaitl's line and you think going up against Winnipeg, you need a little more pop on that Draisaitl line. So the tweak that you were just talking about, maybe they look for that tweak. heading into this Winnipeg game. And maybe it's something as simple as Henrique bumping up onto one of the wings, maybe in place of Connor Brown, but I know you don't love to change a winning lineup, but I'd be really interested to see if they stand pat with Draisaitl and Perry and Brown.
Yeah, and that's the point that I want to go to next. Like that line last night was a red flag. Now maybe they had an off night, and that's fair. All of the three lines are really buzzing, but when your leading scorer doesn't get a point in a 7-1 game, and you're trying to force feed him a point at the end, it just to me it puts up a red flag. So something needs to be tweaked. I don't think I would change Nuge's line. I would leave him there. So that means that probably what's happening is I put Corey on the right wing and Henrique moves up. So now it's Skinner, McDavid, and Hyman, and then you've got Henrique on the left wing with Leon and Perry, and then Nuge's lines stay the same, and then you figure out the fourth line, which would be Janmark, I guess, along with Brown and Kapanen or Derek Ryan, if you want to put him in. Is that a reach there to put Henrique up? Because he's very similar to Nuge in a lot of ways, similar, like very cerebral players.
Yeah, no, I just think there aren't a lot of great options, Struds. And if you make the call that
Sure.
you're leaving Arvidsson, you want to keep him there with Ryan Nugent Hopkins because you like that line, and fair enough, you're just really whittling down the options. And so I think there was some frustration there from Draisaitl in the last game. And I think we need to be respectful to the player because he's a valuable, useful player and he's well liked. But I think we just need to be really honest about what Connor Brown is. Connor Brown is a fourth line player who's good at killing penalties, right? That's what he is.
Right.
And they have him like all dressed up in hair and makeup in a fancy suit, playing him as a second line winger. And it's just not what the player's year has indicated he should be. He had a little tiny stretch there where he put up some nice numbers, but so lots of players have had tiny little stretches like that. So it's a bit of an issue here, Struds. And can Henrique go in there and do more with that opportunity? I would be interested in seeing it because, as Knobloch alluded to yesterday, when you go McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, Henrique as your four-headed monster, it's tough to get those guys engaged. And I think they need more from Henrique than a fourth-line center position is going to allow him to give.
The nice thing about Perry and Henrique is they're both really smart players, and Leon is he I think he does really well with smart hockey players. Everyone does, but I think that's kind of what we're looking at. Okay, so not a lot has changed, obviously. Well, we can't tell from the practice players, but let's think a little bit ahead. So let's go into our Douglas Mattress digital sound box. If you're like me, there's nothing better than a good night's sleep after a long day. Your best sleep is just around the corner. With every mattress, they're including a free sleep bundle that includes 2 memory foam pillows, a complete set of luxury sheets, and more. Visit the Douglas Mattress store in Manchester Square here in Edmonton, or check them out at douglas.ca/GYB. So last night, the Winnipeg Jets got roughed up in Vancouver, 6-2. It sounded similar to the game we saw here between Utah and Edmonton. Early on, there were some bad decisions by some of the players, the D-men of Winnipeg, and allowed some odd man rushes. So let's hear from Scott Arniel what he thought of his head coach, Scott Arniel, about his group last night in Winnipeg.
We got caught at times, maybe being a little over-aggressive. We got in situations where we didn't have our numbers against their numbers, and they got up the ice in a hurry, and they were desperate, and we just made some mistakes and they capitalized.
So if I didn't tell you that was their head coach, Winnipeg's, you could have said that was a coach of Utah last night. I listened to some of the sound coming out there. That's exactly the same game. It was the same game. I didn't watch the game. I watched the highlights, but you saw odd man rushes all the time. And last night the Oilers feasted. So looking ahead tomorrow at Shuagger, at this game, a fun game, Jets Oilers, I'm expecting a much tighter version of the Jets rolling in here. And it sounded like from Arniel's post that their top netminder, Connor Hellebuck, will be in the pipes as well.
Yeah, well, they'll be an attentive group, right? Like the Winnipeg Jets have set a really high standard all year, and it's because they don't put back-to-back performances like they put together last night together very often, right? They're a group that is in control of their game. And so when the head coach comes out and he starts snapping a little bit, not snapping, but he starts being very specific in the way he was specific, that he's going to have their attention. So you'll see a Jets team that is paying attention to the small details, and that also understands. Like, I know the Oilers have been down here a little bit, Struds, but I don't think anybody rolls into Edmonton and takes this as anything other than a measuring stick game. When you've got McDavid and Draisaitl coming at you, and a team that went to Game 7 of a Stanley Cup final, like the Winnipeg Jets have been, one of the best teams in the league this year. I think they would still view this game against Edmonton as one they really need to take seriously. And look what they did to them. I think, was it the first game of the year this year?
First game.
And they dismantled the Oilers' first game of the year. So look, I think it's going to be an attentive group. It's going to be a tough test. And if I'm the Oilers in any discussion about what the lineup is going to look like, I'm going to be fascinated, Struds, because I think outside of Frederick and Kane, who knows if he would be available, I think Chris Knobloch needs to be putting together a lineup that he thinks would start game 1 of the playoffs. That's what I would be interested in seeing from him, your best group. So what will we see on the blue line? Emberson, Stetcher, what will we see? Emberson stayed out a little bit later today, but he also didn't play last night, so I'm not going to read too much into that.
I'm looking forward to watch Darnell Nurse tomorrow night. He came out against Utah and was physical and mean. And at times, no reason to be mean. And I love that. I love that version of Darnell Nurse. End up getting to a fight. Adam Lowry is a similar type leader for the Winnipeg Jets. He's a guy that he's captain. He plays hard. He's the best third line in the league is on the Winnipeg Jets, led by or anchored by Adam Lowry. So I expect, and I'm not suggesting these two are going to fight, but I'm suspecting both players are going to come out grumpy tomorrow night. And if they're both grumpy, I think we're in for a good one tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a good one. And I'm going to bounce here because I know you got Dregs coming up. But Struds, I'll leave you with this. And you put your points together at the start of the show, and I think they're great points. The other thing too, I think we probably should be mentioning here, because he sure takes a lot of heat when his game is a little bit off, and he's one that fans like to pile up on. We spend a fair amount of time on our show pointing out when there are errors because he's an incredibly important player, and I think it's fair to do that. But Evan Bouchard's game has really dialed in.
Fair.
He's avoiding the big mistakes. He's putting together really quality minutes. He's moving the puck brilliantly. And Evan Bouchard is a game changer for this group when he's on his game. And I think as his game is rounded into form, I think we've seen results overall, change a lot too here. So I think that happening for this team and for Bouchard, I think that's been a really big, important swing too.
Yeah, a lot of players ticking up, and they'll want to continue. This next stretch of 3 games isn't easy. Dallas, Seattle, and then tomorrow night, obviously, Winnipeg Jets. All right, buddy, thanks for popping in. We'll catch you again tomorrow night on the Got Your Back post-game show, Jets-Oilers. Okay,
and Struds, I just want to make it very clear for the next segment, because you're going to have Darren Dreger on.
Sure.
And Darren is kind of like my mean uncle. Every chance he gets, he likes to pile on to me. And I know that you do the same as my co-host of this show, Struds. But listen, my expectation is when somebody from the outside starts piling on to me, my expectation is that you have my back. That it's not the two of you chewing on me. My expectation is that you got me covered.
Buddy, I only like to chirp people to their face because I love seeing the reaction. So if we say something funny, we'll get you back on the line and chirp you right to your face. All right, buddy. Thanks for this. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, pal.
Yeah. Okay, tomorrow night. That was Up to Speed with our good buddy Ryan Rishaug. All right, before we get to a quick break here, Zoob's pretty cool event coming up here. And you can the Alberta Spirits Fest. Check out the Alberta Spirits and Cocktail Festival this weekend at the Edmonton Event Center. A can't miss event featuring over 40 local and Canadian distillers, flair bartending shows, live music, an after party, and much, much more. Tickets at abspiritfest.ca. You'll probably see Shuagger there. He'll be slow dancing to fast music. That's kind of what he does. It's always hard. It's always hard when he does that, to see that. Zuby, great start here. We still got lots to come. Did I miss anything, buddy?
I don't think so. I'm going to get Dreger on the horn here. I think he's a little under the weather, but he's still going to play through and join us to talk about a few other things in Oilerland and around the league.
Okay, well, let's do that. Let's take a quick pause. When we come back, we've got Dregs on the other side with 3 mints cough drops in his mouth.
McDonald's new cheesy jalapeno and bacon quarter pounder with 100% Canadian beef is here. So if you crave beefy burgers with a pretty peppery punch and pickled jalapeno peppers piled in a perfect bunch, and if you please if a cheesy taste came in threes with cheesy jalapeno pepper sauce poured with ease, and if smoky strips of bacon make burgers better, you'll love our cheesy jalapeno and bacon quarter pounder. Get this beefy, bold, bacony, melty mouthful only at McDonald's for a limited time.
Join over 250,000 Canadians who have upgraded to Canada's best mattress. Douglas is proudly made in Canada and ships directly to your door for free. Douglas is easy to set up. Enjoy perfectly balanced comfort and an easy-to-clean machine-washable cover. Get a free sleep bundle with your Douglas mattress. Try risk-free for 365 nights. Get your Douglas mattress today.
Specializing in heavy-duty commercial truck powertrain repair, performance, tuning, and part sales, Adrenaline Diesel's professional team is ready to assist you with all of your needs, from the simplest oil changes to engine conversions, overhauls, and engine modifications. Featuring an all-new online parts store and machine shop to manufacture, replicate, or repair parts, visit adrenalinediesel.ca.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us here today. Now it's time to check in with one of my good buddies, Darren Dreger, brought to you by HSC Core Services. If you're a small to medium-sized business, HSC Core has your back when it comes to health and safety compliance. From creating and managing a tailored health and safety program that meets all legislation and core requirements, HSC Core supports clients' operations every step of the way. Visit www.hsccore.com. That's hsccor.com for more info. Dregs, the GM meetings just wrapped up recently. How close are we? Do you feel that the GMs are going to want to have neck guards and cut-resistant fabric for the players' undergarments?
Well, you know what, Struddy, it's going to be interesting. And so I'll answer the question, and then I want you to chime in on this as a former player, because that's really where the pushback is going to come from. And it's going to come from the Players Association. Automatically, if you're Tom Fitzgerald, the general manager of the New Jersey Devils, you just saw your son go through a near catastrophic skate cut to the throat playing in the American League. It hits home in every sense as a dad, parent, hockey man, his entire life, all those things. But also then as a former player, do you want to be told what you have to wear? And that's where the pushback always comes from the Players Association. I respect it. I understand it. But then we go to what happened last night in, what was probably a pretty normal and harmless collision between Shane Pinto of the Ottawa Senators and Josh Anderson of the Montreal Canadiens. And it could have been catastrophic again. And weirdly, Josh Anderson, and this would be the trainers of the Montreal Canadiens, maybe since, you remember Caden Gooley got cut in January, I think. And so I think the Montreal Canadiens training staff has been all over their players. Like, this stuff, this cut-resistant equipment is available to you. I think it was a long pant. And it's hard to get players to comply. But in this case, weirdly, last night, Josh Anderson for the first time said, yeah, okay, I'll try it. And he wore the long pant, the Kevlar-laced long pant, and then had that scenario play out. I mean, if he's not wearing that protective gear, maybe we're having a conversation. This is hypothetical, but you wonder about, is it season threatening? Is it career threatening? I mean, it's just diabolical, the areas that you can go into. So I think, as Chris Johnson reported on the other day here in Florida, I think that the league would like to offer a grandfathering clause in the new collective bargaining agreement. I just don't know how the players are going to comply to that, whether or not they're going to be on board. So we'll see how it plays out. It could be a long one.
Both my boys wear cut-resistant stuff under their hockey gear, and I tried it on. Yeah. Like, it's not a big deal. And I think that what is going to happen is that people realize it's not really that. It doesn't impede much. if anything doesn't change anything. So I think we'll see that.
Yeah.
The neck guard is maybe a little different one. Like my wife asked me, would you wear a
Right.
neck guard if you had to right now? And I'd say no.
Yeah.
I didn't. I wouldn't. And now
Yeah.
I'm not being a hero. I'm just not used to it. I suppose we could look at the
Yeah.
facts, but that's kind of where I sit on that one.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
continue down, Gary Bettman had a chat after the GM meetings, and he said
Yeah.
that I believe it was April 1st, the league and the NHLPA are going to get together, and he expects things to go rather well. So from where you're sitting,
Yeah.
you see any potential sticking points in a deal getting done between what seems like two pretty happy groups right now?
Yeah, I don't think so. Not anything that would really stand in the way. I mean, there has to be negotiation. And Bettman corrected the media gaggle a couple of times as we tried to push back, because he's never been one as the commissioner of the National Hockey League to try and negotiate through the media or negotiate publicly. So he corrected by saying, like, we've had discussions, but we're not engaged, and we're going to engage in the near future, being early April. It was interesting, Struddy, right before the Four Nations face-off, they came out with the salary cap projections for the next 3 years. And that's pretty telling, because that tells you that the league and the Players Association, they may not be in lockstep, but they're as close to being partners now as maybe they have been in decades, maybe ever, if you really want to dive deep into it. So there's nothing on the forefront that I look at, go, okay, well, there's a potential deal breaker. They do have to get the international calendar hemmed down. Like, we know what it is, the Olympics, then you've got the World Cup. Before that, you have the men's worlds and all that. But there's still some things that have to get figured out, contracts that need to be signed. But that's more of the NHL and the NHLPA working together and then dealing with the IIHF or the IOC. So, yeah, I mean, I've heard that contract terms are up for discussion. And what that means is, as your fans probably know, an educated fan base here, you go to free agency, you can sign a maximum 7-year contract. If you stay with your home club, then you can extend to a maximum 8 years. Is that going to change? There's an appetite to change it, but I don't know what that means in terms of the maximum years. So those are the things that I think Bettman and Marty Walsh of the Players Association and all their lieutenants and their lawyers are going to have to figure out the future.
Dregs, we've had this question a few times here on the pod. The salary cap's going up and everyone's making a lot of money. The owners, the players, the coaches, it seems like everyone's making more money than they have. Just think where the salary cap started back, a number of years ago. Does that complicate things, the fact that now the numbers are getting that much bigger?
I don't think it complicates things. It's always, how do you slice the pie? And, the players are always going to command what their piece of that pie is. So when you look at Connor McDavid, when the Edmonton Oilers get to a near future place here where they've got to negotiate that extension, what does it look like? Well, it looks like whatever Connor McDavid wants it to look like, whatever he feels, and his agent, feel their percentage slice of the pie looks like. So I don't think it overly complicates, but you know what it lends itself to, Struddy, is, and we kind of had this conversation with Bettman, like he pushes back anytime you ask about expansion. Like, I believe that the NHL is going to expand again. I'm not sure when, I'm not entirely sure where, but when you've got $2 billion with a B in expansion fees potentially up for grabs with 32 owners, they want that. They want that. But then what's the next step beyond that, right? Like, you then have to expand. Instead of 16 playoff teams, now you have 20. Like, these are the things that, I think Gary Bettman, the owners, and the Players Association try and crystal ball and chat, but none of that is going to be part of comprehensive or complex negotiations, I don't think, this time around.
And one last one, hockey-related one. Steve Staios, former Edmonton Oiler, sure feels like his kind of patient and very strategic approach is paying off. Now, I know they lost to Montreal, but have you liked kind of what he's done since taking over, including up to the Dylan Cousins trade recently?
Oh, boy. I'll give Staios a ton of credit in this because, I talked to him as much as I could leading up to the trade deadline. And he was very transparent. He would tell me, look, I'd like to add a more affordable center, which then gives me a little bit more space so that I can add a winger. We didn't know that pieces were Dylan Cousins and Fabian Zetterlund. But as it turned out, it worked out perfectly for the Sens because now you've got that 2 center, and Travis Green is growing to understand the type of winger that Zetterlund is. So, Stales was okay with not doing much and just giving his young core the experience of locking down a playoff spot and then seeing how the playoffs go. And you need that experience to just evolve as an organization. But from a team standpoint, and I got to believe the players feel this way, they look at that deal that he made in acquiring Dylan Cousins, and then on top of that, getting Zetterlund, they're like, okay, well, management and ownership now believe in us. They think we're ready to not just turn the corner, but make a push here in the playoffs. And I think they responded. I think this is it was a tough one last night against Montreal, but I think this is more than just a deadline bump. This is a real good team. They're well coached and they're well managed. So they're finally ready, it looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see it, have all these Canadian teams potentially in the playoffs either this year and moving forward. Dregs, I really appreciate it. I know you have had some busy days. We'll talk to you again soon, buddy. Thanks for this.
Okay, Struddy, thank you.
See you, buddy. Darren Dreger, everybody. It was Struddy's buddy. I know that's the highlight of his week. He's texting me all the time about it. I'm like, yeah, buddy. Well, we'll have you on. We love having you on. Okay, Zoops. Let's take a look at the standings. And these standings are so interesting. Brought to you by our good buddies at Painting by Michaela. If your home interior is feeling dull or outdated, Painting by Michaela knows fresh coats are in season all year round. From winter to summer, their dependable quality service delivers a clean, flawless finish every time, done by professionals you can trust. Proudly serving the Edmonton area, they are ready to transform your space. Call 780-935-8608 today. And there's nothing like that fresh smell of paint to make a place feel clean and new. I love it. Okay, Zoops, take it over here, man. The standings. I check the standings like all the time now. This is the best time of year.
Yeah. Let's take a little look here. We like to always check in first on our friends in the Pacific Division here. As you can see, the Oilers with those 3 consecutive wins, now only 2 points behind Vegas for the top of the division, but still a game in hand for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then something, of course, that lots of people have their eyes on with some recent results here is we got the Sens and the Habs as we jump over to the East and look at the wild card. Sens and Habs occupying those 2 bottom wild card spots, which means as of this moment, we got 6 out of 7 Canadian teams in playoff spots, and the Flames the only ones on the outside looking in, and they're not that far out looking in. It's just that they got St. Louis has jumped up ahead of them now, so they'd have to jump up there, and for all 7 to make it, Vancouver would have to stay in, so they'd all have to tick up a little bit. So that would be so exciting. I did do a little bit of quick research. 85-86, the last time every Canadian team made the playoffs at the same time. And by the way, that was, I believe, the original Jets and the Quebec Nordiques. And I think, and there were were there still only 21 teams at that time? I'm not sure. Some expansion on the horizon. And then it looks like in 15 and 17, we had 5 of the current 7 Canadian teams make it. And it seems like it's got to be at least 5 now. I think Ottawa's going to get in there for sure.
I think I was going to do it too. And they just need someone else to squeak in there. Yeah. To have 6 Canadian teams in the first round. I mean, come on. That'd be so exciting. Yeah. And a lot of talent. I keep saying there's a lot of talent on Canadian teams right now. Whether you're kind of near the bottom with Calgary or Montreal, all the way up to, Toronto and Edmonton. Winnipeg.
And the first round of the playoffs is always my favorite. And even in a decade of darkness, I could like when your team keeps going, then it's really fun to watch all the way through. But the first round is so much fun, upsets and overtime, and just the madness of that first round, and so many games every night. It's just a blast.
Well, speaking of madness, we're going to talk a little about March Madness when we come back for this break, because that is nuts. And it kind of started, but we'll get into it here. Officially starts Thursday. So let's take a quick pause here. on the show. Thanks everyone for chiming in. Make sure you get your thoughts in for Ask Zuby and I Anything, and we'll get to those answers later in the show. And give us a thumbs up. Tell a friend. We'll be right back talking some March Madness next.
Dennis here from Weiss Johnson. Are you looking to get into the trades or have a kid graduating high school wondering what to do? Weiss Johnson is looking for career-minded people to work for us. Opportunities truly are endless. Become a service technician, gas fitter, refrigeration technician, install residential or commercial heating and plumbing systems, fireplace installations or service, duct cleaning. We are the company where you can learn all aspects of the trade and pick which career path to take. We have an awesome benefits package and offer school reimbursement too. Visit wjcareers.com today.
For over 60 years, Belvedere Golf and Country Club has delivered a high-quality membership experience to Edmonton and area. And now it's even better. Drainage and irrigation improvements in 2024 have taken course conditions to a new level. This commitment to long-term sustainability means exceptional playing conditions all season long. Belvedere's tee sheet availability is unmatched, so join now and experience golf the way it was meant to be played, on your schedule. Visit belvederegcc.com today.
Welcome back, everybody. Struddy's World. Thanks for joining us today over your lunch break. Tell a friend. Give us a thumbs up. Let's quickly take another look. A lot of comments coming in on the stream. So let's get back into the digital inbox brought to you by Douglas Mattresses. And one of our listeners had a pretty interesting question about Leon.
Yeah, Ben Dofer, great name, says, is it appropriate to start questioning the your job is to get the puck to 29 strategy for players like 92? Could this be the reason why it's been impossible to get consistent wingers for Leon? He adds, this strategy seems selfish and almost holds players like 92, even 93 back. When will it be appropriate to start questioning 29 as part of the problem? It's a team game, remember. Of course, I don't think anyone would say Leon Draisaitl is a problem for the team, but is he a difficult guy to play with? Is there something to that, Struddy?
Elite players are hard to play with because your gut says, this guy is better than me. I should get the puck to him. So it may change your natural rhythm, the way you do things. When you shoot, you pass, or when you pass, you should have shot. So those are the ways you have to look and understand how playing with those top players and how can I still have my game be effective when I am playing with someone who's really good. And I think it's a responsibility of a really good player to talk to their line mates as well. Say, hey man, like if you get an open look, shoot it. Or if you're driving with speed, you drive it and I'll drive the net or whatever. Like those are things that you have to have those constant conversations because it is intimidating to play with top players. So it's a fair question, but I would suspect that 29 is sharing with everybody what he should be doing, Zoops.
And you think communicates in that way? Do you see him as that type of guy?
Yeah, I don't know that he's as friendly the way I just outlined it. But top players, the challenge for top players is they think so much faster than the rest of us that they think you know what to do. Like I talk to my cousin Scott Niedermeyer all the time. He's like, why don't you just do this when you had the puck? I'm like, you don't think I want to do that? I cannot do that. Otherwise I would be doing that. It's not that I'm just like, I'm just going to throw it off the glass instead of skating through three guys and passing it. Like, so you're trying to get, it's difficult. It's like someone who's, can dunk, trying to explain to someone who can't dunk, who's 5 feet, that you got to just dunk. It's not that easy. So, but I do think that you do have to work with your line mates. Okay, let's get now to time to play the field. And we've got some beauties for you this week brought to you by Play Alberta. As the playoff race heats up, make every game count with odds boost, player props, and same game parlays. There's no better way to raise the stakes while teams fight for those crucial points. Get a $50 free bet this month by depositing with code GYB03. Visit playalberta.ca. March Madness. It is. I mean, I used to watch a bit of college basketball. I lived in Kentucky for a while. So Kentucky Wildcats were my team. They still are. And it kind of comes and goes, trying to watch my own kids, hockey, all that stuff. But come March Madness, I become an expert. I absolutely love it. Zoobs, what's your level of interest for March Madness?
My level of interest is high, especially if I do a bracket. You know, if I don't do a bracket, I'll kind of be paying attention, but I'm not following that closely unless I do a bracket. So we're going to do a bracket challenge, by the way, the Struddy's World Bracket Challenge, which we invite all our listeners to join. You basically have a little less than a day to complete it before it cuts off. The link is actually going to be in the show notes of this episode, or it's on Yahoo. It's going to be on Yahoo Sports. Or if you already have an account, you could just go there. You can search within the bracket challenge for Struddy's World Official. It's just for bragging rights. We're gonna keep tabs here on the show and see what we can do. But it is so cool. The everyone's so into it. The players go crazy. The fans storm in the court, and it's wild. It's a lot of fun.
So the challenge is to get the perfect bracket.
Yes.
Right? That's the challenge. And for those of you unfamiliar, basically all the games are outlined. You just pick the winner for each game, and then it just keeps narrowing down to the point where you're down to your final four. And getting a perfect bracket has proven to be nearly impossible.
The odds, they said the coin flip odds. So if you coin flipped all your way through it, I won't even say how many digits are in it. It's the odds of getting it right are 1 in 9.22 quintillion, according to the NCAA. And so that's why there are these some of the billionaires here making big states. Some guy named Elon is doing this thing where if you get a perfect bracket, you can get a trip to Mars. You could be one of the first people among the astronauts to be one of the first people to go to Mars. And then Warren Buffett does something every year. There was a point at once he offered $1 billion. In 2014, he offered $1 billion to anyone who could pick a perfect bracket. He since lowered it to a $1 million prize and limited it to his Berkshire Hathaway employees. But that just goes to show how nearly impossible it is to do.
So tough. So what we're going to do, we're going to highlight our top four here. And listen, we're by no means experts. This is some gut. This is some hope as well. So I'll go first here, buddy.
Okay.
My final four are this. Michigan State, St. John's out of New York. I love that team. That's a hard pick. Tennessee and Arizona. Those are my final four. And then I have St. John's beating Tennessee in the final.
Okay, we got a little bit of duplication here, but two different ones. So I got Duke, and just impossible to me not to take Duke. So I got Duke, I got Tennessee and Michigan State also, and then I took Texas Tech. I got Texas Tech as my fourth one, and then this is probably the easiest way to village, but I got Duke over Michigan State.
Fair.
In the final. So taking a number one, that's not very bold of me, but I'm taking Duke to win it.
Well, and I think Duke is at the heads of most of the odds makers list here. They've got a really good team. I was reading, I think they have potentially 3 of the top 8 picks will be off of that roster.
Okay.
Including Cooper Flagg, who just seems like he's a man-child as a freshman. So good team. And so if you never watched it, take a look. It's so much fun. And like I said, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It kind of goes on, but it is so busy and so much action. You can't turn the TV on without seeing college kids hitting threes.
Yeah, get in on our bracket. If you're at the top of the leaderboard, you might even get a mention on the show in the upcoming weeks here. So, yeah,
some people are talking about a hug from Shuagger. I don't know. Someone threw that out there. I don't know who would want that, but maybe someone would. All right, sticking in kind of a little different world. I didn't know that there is going to be a World Bowling League. Yeah. I didn't know that, and I guess I should have. And this is going to include teams from all over the world, including Dubai. And they're talking about 15 to 17 events a year, Zuby. And even more random, Mookie Betts, star player of the Dodgers, who has bowled a 300 before, big bowler. He's bought a franchise. No one knows for how much, but like this is pretty crazy that all these things are kind of intersecting in the world of bowling.
Yeah, and I love bowling, as you can see still from my Kingpin poster here. Somebody said last night on the Got Your Back stream, they said, how come you got a picture of Struddy behind you? And I think that someone was taking a shot at you with Woody Harrelson's hairstyle, then going back to Kingpin there. But I love bowling. I think it was crazy. There's even footage of Mookie bowling that 300 game. Like he was in an event or something. So obviously he was a really good bowler. growing up. So that's these leagues that are popping up now in all these different sports. It's cool, but there's, I don't know, there's how much time do you have? I guess people don't have families to be able to watch all of these things. There's so much out there, but there's a few other instances too that I found. So Tom Brady and Kevin Durant both are invested in Major League Pickleball. So there is precedent of some of these players, big time athletes investing in the more obscure sports. Shaquille O'Neal has been in some esports and wrestling promotions. Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, she's invested in the women's golf team in that TGL, in that golf league. Right. And this is a great one too. Rob Gronkowski, Gronk, he is invested in World Championship Cornhole, the competitive cornhole league. So it's not unheard of, but there's other good instances of it out there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And this is international, that this is an international league, and that there's enough money and viewership to have this from, whatever, LA to Dubai. Like that to me is what shocks me. So we'll have to follow this one up, see what they do. But apparently Mookie, he might think he's on one of these teams. He might be an owner operator.
He probably could be. Imagine flying from LA to Dubai to bowl 10 frames.
Just there and back.
Yeah.
And then throw 300. I mean, bowling 300 is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, that was playing the field, and love a lot of comments coming in. We'll get to those later in Ask Struds. But right now, this is where we're going to get into it. Time to get off the fence. Literally got to get off this fence, and it's going to be a battle brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. As Alberta's #1 vinyl product supplier, DLR offers top quality materials to build a fence or deck that won't rot, fade, or fall apart. If you need a skilled contractor to take care of the job, or you prefer a DIY approach, DLR can help set you up with all you need. Canadian owned and operated with locations in Calgary and Edmonton. Visit them today online at dlrvinylproducts.ca. Before we start this, before I really kick the fence over, I am a Giants fan.
Yes.
And we've been struggling ever since we lost soon-to-be Hall of Fame quarterback Eli Manning. We're looking for a quarterback. We thought it was Danny Dimes. It wasn't. So now we're looking forward, amongst other teams, including Minnesota Vikings. And Aaron Rodgers was kicked to the curb by the New York Jets. And he had a pretty good finish to the year, but a lot comes with Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of MVP, times. There was some great football he played, really a legend in the sport, but he's not who he was before. But he still thinks he is, and he kind of carries himself as such, which I get. He's a legend. Now, there are rumors out there that the Giants, amongst other teams, are looking at acquiring him, or just signing him. I would say do not do that. And I would implore any team not to do it. And not because of who he is or anything like that. The challenge is that when a player ages, when they were younger and they're great, you can live with some of the challenges that it comes with, some of the circus-like things that come, right? The challenges personality-wise. But when their level of play drops to, lower than great, maybe of just above average or average, the squeeze for what you think you're getting from this guy and the challenges you have off the field or whatever may be is not worth it anymore, and it actually hurts your franchise. So I'm advising any NHL or any NFL franchise to not take on Aaron Rodgers. Now, I am a Giants fan, and I actually think he might help us get a really high pick. So if they do take him, I hope we just tank like crazy, and then we get a quarterback we want and we move on. But Zoobs, and this happens with all great athletes. You think you're one thing, but the body isn't that anymore. And what was a really good receiver out of Pittsburgh there? I'm drawing a blank. I want to say Robinson, but
Antonio Brown.
So Antonio, I mean, they really helped kind of keep him together in Pittsburgh, and then he left there, and it got really quite messy for him.
Yeah, the shelf life team and really good teams seem to know, and of course New England was so good at it for so long. Yeah. This guy's done. They'd let somebody walk who you thought was just a cornerstone of the team, other than Tom Brady, and I mean they even eventually did it with him. But so many guys they just let. Why that would be such a shock? Why did they let this guy go? And then his career would go on a downward trajectory. I'll address the three teams sort of they're being talked about. The Giants, and it's crazy because it could go either way. I do think he would help the Giants be worse because they're not the right fit. I think he's very likely to get them into well, I know there is no lottery, get them into a top 3 or 4 or 5 pick because he's not the right fit there because it's a younger team. And I think he needs a team that's already close.
Sure.
So the Giants to me are right out unless they just want to have a media circus this year and they're trying to tank. The Vikings, Nick Biskupek made a good point that it would be funny if he went to because the Vikings also seem to be in the mix. He'd be going to Minnesota to complete the Brett Favre career tour with the exact same career trajectory, which would be that would be crazy. And Minnesota's not a bad fit. They have the right personnel. But to me, they don't have the right coach. That's what Rodgers has to have the right coach, or else he's going to overshadow. He's a coach killer, I think, at this stage of his career, unless it's the right coach. So to me, of the teams being rumored, the right fit is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, it sounds like that might be to the side, too, because I think some of the Steelers players have kind of voiced, you either want to be with us or you don't. So they're telling him to get off the fence, but they have the 2 stud receivers, a decent running game, still a good defense. They're a playoff team from last year. And Russell Wilson kind of ran out of gas last year. And even though Rodgers is even older than him, he came on late in the year. I just think he's the better fit there. He needs to be on a team that's going to be like, he should only be throwing the ball 20, 25 times a game at most, finding a way to make a few plays. And to me, Mike Tomlin is the coach. I don't think he'd put up with any of his nonsense. I think he steers the ship, and that's the one place I feel like it could work.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the way you're talking. You're talking about managing the game, right? You want him to manage the game and use his veteran savvy to do that. And Tomlin's a very strong coach. So I think that he would be able to try to manage Aaron Rodgers. And not that he's I don't want to make it sound like it, but he's a lot to handle. He's a lot to handle. And I think that as a player's skills erode from a very high level, I think it becomes harder because they fight harder to hang on. So it sounds like Minnesota's out. They're going to go with JJ McCarthy, who didn't play it down. Well, I guess he got hurt right away. So I mean, I don't know. It's coming down to 2 teams? The Giants are desperate. We're desperate. We'll take anybody at this point, which I think is a mistake for a franchise and sad for that franchise to do that.
Paulie on the stream here says Rodgers has to be considered. Age, his fixation with the Peruvian jungle and ayahuasca, along with the pedigree, give him one more shot. I don't even like the guy. I don't like Aaron Rodgers as a guy. I think he's, an amazing football player, or was certainly in his prime. But I kind of feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's one more shot. Maybe there's another team maybe there's another team I'm missing, but to me, Pittsburgh seems like the perfect fit.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We should know sooner or later after he gets off the beach. Apparently, we've seen on the beach contemplating.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks for all the support here with Get Off the Fence. And then let's wrap things up here with time for Ask Struds. And we have a new sponsor. That's right. McDonald's, brought to you by our good buddies over there, McDonald's. $5.99 meals with McDonald's McValue meals. You get an all-star team for only $5.99. Like the Junior Chicken, the Snack Wrap, or the McDouble McValue meal. Make your choice today. I'm not going to lie, Zoobs. I love chocolate milkshakes at McDonald's. That's my thing. I love their fries. I do. But, sometimes instead of getting anything, I'll just I'll go there and I'll get like a couple snack wraps, and the large chocolate milkshake. When I played in the NHL, when I was down a few pounds, because I always try to stay at like 220 or 225, and let's say I was down to 216, on the way home from practice, I'd stop at the McDonald's kind of on the north side there by the old arena and get a large milkshake. And sometimes the guy's like, "Hey, Struddy, how's the game?" I'm like, "Good, thank you." Like, not all the time, but they recognize me some of the time. But nice. I love a chocolate milkshake. And I know Shamrock's on right now, and I've got nothing wrong with that. But I love a chocolate shake if you haven't had one, God, they're good. It's a meal in itself, buddy.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I haven't had one in the longest time. When I go there, I usually don't even get a drink. I used to come home from hockey in Vancouver, driving from Burnaby back to downtown, past the McDonald's there, 2 McDoubles in the drive-thru, no drink. I didn't even want. I just wanted that. And that's what got me through. That was my post-game McDonald's meal.
So good.
Yeah. All right, let's get to a couple questions here from the stream. Nick Biskupek says he's a huge Doug Waite fan, but never seemed to see him around any of the events or alumni stuff. How's his relationship with the organization these days? Or he adds, do you have any good Doug Waite stories, Struds?
You know, Doug Waite, I only interviewed him. I don't know him personally. Like, I know Billy Guerin a little bit better, just because we kind of ran across each other here in Edmonton. But I think Doug Waite, I don't think he has any problem with the Oilers as far as I know. But he's American. He was traded away. He has been gone away for quite a long time. He was coaching there for a while. So I think he kind of has his hands full of his own thing. And I mean, it happens, right? You know, how many alumni actually stay in any community they live in? There's a few. But for the most part, guys, they kind of just go back to where they're home, or maybe they met their wife somewhere else and they go back to where they're. So yeah, I think that he's a great guy though. I've talked to him a few times, like as an interview, and I really liked him. He always kind of give me a hard time about how hard I tried. I'm like, well, if I was more skilled, I wouldn't have tried so hard. Trust me, I had no choice.
Struddy, you're an Edmonton guy. Did you always kind of hope to play was that always on your radar that you go, oh, I hope one day it'll work out that they'd want me?
Yeah, you know what? I really, yes. So I was actually, after my last year of, I wasn't drafted till like my second year of eligibility.
Okay.
I played midget in Edmonton, and I was, or at U18 now they call it. And I was invited, my coach somehow got me to the Oilers rookie camp in the summer. And I went there and I did really well. And no one had ever seen me before. So Kevin Pendergrast, they wanted to sign me. And I'm like, I remember walking in, like, are you kidding me? I couldn't believe it. I was just like, all these guys were drafted around me. And I walked in there and they're like, we'd like to sign you after the camp. And so my dad, I didn't know what to do. My dad didn't know what to do. Luckily I had my two cousins. So I called, my dad called them and said, well, call our agents. And he called both. One called back, Donnie Meehan, and he became my agent. He called the Oilers and he said, go to Kamloops and just keep getting better. So I could have signed a contract out of midget,
right?
At U18, or they would have called it. But I like, it was, my mind was blown. And that was the first time I ever thought, man, I might not actually be bad at this.
Yeah.
And so they told me a couple things to work on, more than a couple. But yeah, so ever since then, I always thought, they liked me. Why didn't they draft me the next year?
Right.
They could have drafted me. They could have had me. They never did. And then when I got the call again from Kevin Pendergrast, they wanted to sign me. I was so happy, and I come back to Edmonton.
Nice. That's a great story. I hadn't heard that before. JL wants to know when you're going to get Hayes or O-Dog to join the show as a Struddy buddy. We might have to keep that on the radar,
Yeah.
eh?
You know what? That's actually a really good idea. When there's a Toronto focus, we should bring them in because they are really funny. I mean, O-Dog you can't control them, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Hayes, who, he's fairly strongly slanted toward anything Toronto. And he's honest with it, but nothing brings me greater joy than, the Leafs losing on the first round. If you look at what's going on now, I mean, it looks like they're going to be at best second. Now things can change. There's a lot of season left, but man, it's tough. If you got to beat Tampa and then Florida, I mean, come on, that's two tough teams to beat.
And I'll tell, Avi Hoffman here saying, I guess this seems like a long shot now, but he wants to see Habs versus Leafs round 1 would be epic. I mean, that seems like it's a bit of a long shot now, but how amazing would that be?
Well, for a while there, it was looking like Sens and Leafs. Could you imagine if the Sens and Leafs played in the first round and the Sens beat the Leafs?
Yeah.
Like that, Toronto would burn down. Like there'd just be nothing left.
Yeah.
And it's, Toronto, I don't know. We will get into it a little bit more as we get closer to playoffs. I don't know how well the Leafs are going to do. Scotty Lott, it's pretty good. Lott. Yeah, he's pretty good. I'm not sure that he's as good as everyone thinks he is. Playing at home isn't easy. We've seen it with some other players come back. I'll be interested to see. We'll get to those as we get closer to playoffs. So.
And on Ray and Dregs, they were saying Lawton already kind of bumped down the lineup and Max Domi moved up. So that fit maybe isn't quite there. And I wanted to say one thing to anyone watching. I've had not as much interaction with O-Dog as you have, but what I will say about him is he is he's what you see when you watch Overdrive. When it turns off, he's exactly the same. Nothing changes. So he's the genuine article.
Unbelievable guy. Like he'll text me when he was coming here in Edmonton, like, where's a good sushi place? And I'll be like, give him a bunch of options. Never hear back from him again. And then I'll run into him like, did you go to the sushi place? I changed my mind. Like just Like and he doesn't bother him. It's just, he's one of a kind.
Okay, a couple quick ones just to wrap up here. Shane A saying, do you think the Oilers are going to be interested in any college free agents? This is almost a Shuagger question, but what do you know about who's out there who might be on the radar for the Oilers?
Yeah, so I wouldn't be able to suggest any really good college free agents right now. But when Stan Bowman was brought on, I think it was either Stan or Jeff said that because of the lack of draft picks, they're going to have to really scour Europe and college. And they're going to have to, because you've got to find some diamonds in the rough, some players that are going to be able to feed this monster that is this team without draft picks. This year they have very few. Now they have traded them for players that have come in and play, like Jake Wallman's going to play. I'm guessing they'd try to resign him. So you're getting legit NHL players for these draft picks, but you need to have players. So I wouldn't be surprised they try to expand their amateur scouting to try to find these diamonds in the rough.
Right. One other suggestion going way back to the start of the show, McBain said he'd like to see Kapanen back with Draisaitl and send Brown down. Lots of people praised Kapanen's game from last night, even though he didn't hit the score sheet. What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, you know what? He's skating, he's physical, and there could be, he was up with McDavid, and I thought he had 2 opportunities he missed out on, but he does skate really fast. So that line, I would leave all the lines the same, except for that line, right? So when I say the other lines 1 and 3, so 2 has to be tweaked. And Cap, I hadn't really thought, do you try Kapanen with Henrique and Draisaitl, or do you leave Corey Perry there? Like, I'll be really interested to see what he does, because Shuagger made a good point. I'm not sure he can roll in against Winnipeg with that same second line.
Right. How about Kapanen and Max Jones? No, I'm kidding, but that would be have some good banging out there. Okay, last sort of a comment here. We'll say, Paulie said, woke up today and thought, why not drive 1,500 kilometers to Edmonton to watch the Jets tomorrow? Irony of it is I have to drive by Canada Life Center in Winnipeg on the way. So, Paul, that's super exciting. Paulie making the trek from somewhere out east without me doing the exact measurement on the 1,500 kilometers to take in Oilers Jets on Thursday night. So pretty cool. He also asked if he could get a selfie with you. Is that worthy of a selfie? That was in another comment, but
100%. And I'll actually be at the game tomorrow. I'm going to the game. I'm going to do the Sportsnet intermission panel with Bob and Gene, and then so I'll be around there. Yeah, so shoot me a tweet. We can hook up. We're upstairs and by Gene.
Cool.
Okay, guys. Well, this was awesome, Zuby. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it, and thank you to McDonald's for joining us. I think I'm actually going to go get a milkshake right now. Chocolate milkshake, man. I love it. So thank you to all of our sponsors and all of our guests. Obviously, with Ryan Rishaug, we've got Darren Dreger, Zuby, and myself, and you. We love doing this with you and sharing with you. So tell a friend. Let a friend know what we're doing here every week. We're having a good time, and we'll keep growing together. Zuby, any final thoughts before we check out?
No, this was lots of fun. I'm looking forward to us just growing and building this, and hopefully building the audience in the stream and getting everybody involved. And it's a good time. I enjoy it. And I'm going to start a little, like maybe an hour earlier next week. All my things I need to do so that I'm not stressing and sweating here before the show starts.
Simple. All right, guys. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week. Remember, tomorrow night, got your back, Strudwick, Shuagger, Zuby, and Brownie. Talk to you then, guys.